Let's Science is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
3, 2, 1.
We live in a universe of scientific wonders.
Every day, scientists are inching towards breakthroughs which can change our lives.
We're playing our small part in sharing these wonders with you.
That's why today is a fine day for science.
So let's science.
Okay, Caroline, a couple of things have happened scientifically. You've got a couple of interesting topics for us, so
Yeah.
take us away.
Okay, so did you know, Lindsay, that about 5,200 tons of extraterrestrial dust falls onto Earth every year?
No, I actually thought it was 5,100 tons, but thanks for clarifying
You
that
were
for
wrong.
me. No, that's amazing. Yeah, tell us about it.
So this is based on a paper published in Earth and Planetary Science Letters on the 15th of April and talks about a study that some people did, and I'll go through it. So extraterrestrial dust, also known as cosmic dust or space dust, and this is dust originated from space and has come through and landed through the Earth's atmosphere and landed on the Earth's surface. So apart from the dust that comes down to Earth, there's lots of different types of dust that I learned about. So there's intergalactic dust, which is dust occurring between galaxies. There's interstellar dust. There's interplanetary dust. And that's such as the zodiacal cloud that we've got in our solar system.
Yep.
And as a side note, which is actually going to be measured by the Hayabusa 2 mission that we talked about probably several
we're very excited about
missions ago. Yes, it's the JAXA mission that went and took a sample of Ryugu.
It's the Swiss Army knife of space probes. Really,
Yeah, it is. Because
it's so impressive.
It took a sample of Ryugu and it recently dropped the sample down to Earth, and it kept going on its way off to another asteroid, and on its way it's going to be measuring this zodiacal cloud to see how much dust is in our solar system.
Amazing, yeah.
So that's pretty good. And the last type of dust is circumplanetary dust, which is the dust and solid objects that orbit planets in a ring, such as the rings of Saturn that we are all familiar with. So physicist Jean Duprat and colleagues at the French National Centre for Scientific Research, the CNRS, decided to conduct a study measuring the amount of space dust that falls to Earth. And I didn't even ever think of dust on Earth, but there you go. So there's plenty of dust that falls on Earth. So
There's enough dust in my house, let alone what falls on
Well,
Earth.
there you go. Now you know where it comes from.
It's a bit of Mars right here.
Not quite, but yeah. Most areas of Earth. So most areas of Earth dust accumulation is generally washed away. So, it'll fall down to the ground and like rain or wind or something probably blow it away. So they needed an area where they could collect this dust and weigh it. So at Concordia Station on Antarctica, so there's very little movement and the snowfall is quite predictable. So they've got a kind of a controlled situation that they are able to collect the dust from.
Yep.
So this experiment took about 20 years and 6 expeditions. So it wasn't a very quick one. They took a while to collect samples. So what they did is they dug out trenches of snow about 4 meters deep and melted the snow, and they collected the dust particles, and then they put the dust particles through filters. And I'll just read a little bit from their paper in their methods section, and it says, because I think it's really cool in their words. So the filters were examined in the clean room at CSNSM under binocular microscope, and particles were manually extracted using dedicated fine brushes because they're actually really tiny.
Yes, yeah.
They're not big pieces. The main contaminants observed in the filters were fibers from polar clothes and gloves, plastic chips from barrels, and from tools used to extract and transport the snow. These contaminants were easily identified and removed during the filter sorting procedure. So they took optical images of all these they're calling them actually micrometeorites because they came from space.
Okay.
Yep. And so they put them through different sizes of mesh filters, and they've got some really cool pictures under electron microscope. So you've got some really like perfect spheres. You've got some that are a little bit look like tiny little rocks, and then some that are kind of jagged. And they managed to actually catch some that were smaller than their finest mesh because they were jagged and just caught.
Whoa.
So they managed to get kind of a good representative sample, and you know they got quite a lot of samples, so it's a good experiment that they did. So apart from measuring, they managed to they were able to see the particles, which is pretty awesome. And then they weighed all the samples, and from that they estimated, like I mentioned, about 5,200 tons of the tiny particles measuring between about 30 to 200 micrometers fall to Earth every year. And it turns out that is the most abundant source of extraterrestrial material on Earth. So they think, just from extrapolation, that about 15,000 tons actually enters into the Earth's atmosphere, but about 1/3 of it actually burns up before it lands. So, I mean, I guess we always hear about meteorites hitting the Earth surface, but only about 10 tons of that per year comes through this. Thank goodness, really.
Yes, thank goodness, but yeah.
And most of it is actually in the form of these tiny micrometeorites. And they think that it probably comes mostly from comets, you know, just bits of comets burning off, and I guess the Earth just sucks it into its atmosphere. So there you go. Earth is really dusty. In fact, space is really dusty.
Yes.
It's not like the perfect, clear. I mean, it is mostly, but, there are areas of dust around. And I'm sure if you went and just scooped up, you'd probably be able to get some dust and measure it up just like we did here on Earth. So,
And is that left over just from the creation of the whole universe?
Leftover stuff. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you'd have meteorites, and you'd have, all sorts of asteroids and things banging into each other all the time. And so, not only would they have big particles coming off them, but they'd have the tiny particles. And we've seen, like, for example, like I mentioned, the Ryugu asteroid, when they went to get sample, it's quite dusty, they just hit up dust off the surface. So dust is everywhere in space. So it's no surprise that, some of it comes to Earth. And they think perhaps that some of the elements that we have on Earth may have come from space, so if you think about it like that. And so I thought that was quite interesting. I wanted to share that with everyone.
Amazing. And let's go from the dusts of the stellar dusts to the dusts of Mars, and tell us what's happening. Something really exciting that NASA just accomplished very, very recently. Yeah,
so some of the dust on Mars would have been kicked up by a certain little Ingenuity helicopter that they successfully tested, would have been last night for us. So we've been waiting. Ingenuity helicopter, that's right. We've been waiting for this little helicopter to fly for a little while now, and they finally were ready to go yesterday. And it was really exciting to watch the live feed. First, the live feed through NASA was the telemetry coming through and everybody being happy and everything. And then a few minutes later, they beamed through these awesome pictures.
One was a shadow. Did you see the shadow of the?
There was the shadow.
That was great.
There was the shadow, and then you get a kind of few still frames of Ingenuity on the Martian surface, Ingenuity up in the air, Ingenuity down on the ground.
Yes.
And when they said, telemetry has come through, altitude confirmed, and they were all excited. And so that's going down in history as the first first flight on a planet from Earth. So there you go.
Yeah, on Mars, and and a Wright brothers moment on Mars. This is Mars's
exactly
Wright brothers, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I saw I think there was a meme or something with comparison of the first manned flight on Earth and then the first little flight on another planet. So really exciting times.
Yep, and this was just a test to see if it could go up and down. It was at 3 meters. The whole thing was 30 seconds. It just hovered and landed.
It was very
again.
quick, and they had to test it because they weren't sure if they could. I mean, theoretically, it was going to fly. I guess I've mentioned before that the Mars atmosphere is very thin, and so the rotors have to spin extremely fast.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, so they managed to pull it off. Really
Yep.
good. Those guys are very smart.
They are, yes. Now, I can't wait to see more. So there are going to be more, not advanced, more advanced flights and tests, longer duration and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see
They're
what
just going to be fighting over the remote control now, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, my turn.
Let me fly.
Yeah.
So-
And I bet, I bet probably in future missions we'll probably have more elaborate kinds of drones that can probably do a whole lot more. This is just laying the foundation for the next rover, the next drone now.
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool? Like they could fly, they pick up a rover, fly it to a spot on Mars.
Oh, yes.
So I want to sample this, take a sample, and then have another little craft where they could just fly it up and back to Earth, like taking samples. That would be really cool.
Yeah, well, it may not be a problem. They may not have to worry about picking it up with a drone and flying it around because maybe, maybe in a decade or so, a Starship is going to get to Mars.
We'll be going there by ourselves.
Yes.
Have you
now
bought your
NASA,
ticket?
Did you see? Yeah, that's right. But you could, potentially do that. But did you see the news that NASA it has selected SpaceX and its Starship rocket to be the official rocket of the Artemis mission to take people, to be the moon lander, the human landing system.
That is going to be cool. Now we just have to get it flying without blowing up, but I'm sure they'll get there.
Yes. Well, SN15 is due for its test, and this is meant to be a more advanced design, apparently. It might still blow up, but they're planning. I think there were plans for up to SN21 so far, so it's going to be a testing campaign.
Oh yeah, it's going to take a while, but
the kids love it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, hopefully
they can see a rocket and explosion.
I know. I mean, it's kind of fun to watch, but we do want them to stop exploding at some point so we get some worthy flights out of it. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to do an episode where we talk about what the actual mission is, because what they're planning on doing, to get a Starship there, to actually get crew, because the crew won't be on the Starship. They're going to travel to the Starship in orbit of the moon, apparently.
Yeah,
so
right.
We'll have to talk about what that mission will look like later on down the track.
That's pretty exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff, yeah.
Let's Science is brought to you by StarQuest Media and is a fortnightly podcast that brings you the scientific wonders of our universe from a distinctly Catholic point of view. For more from Caroline, Lindsay, and friends, listen to the StarQuest show, Catholics of Oz. Find links from today's show at sqpn.com/science. And find the Catholics of Oz at sqpn.com/Oz. Be sure to follow the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you can find podcasts, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. The generous donations of our patrons at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Let's Science and all the shows at StarQuest, which makes our nonprofit mission possible. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Join us next time for more scientific wonders, and thank you for listening to Let's Science on StarQuest.